This is ChangeMakers with Katie Gore, finding the right solutions for the affordable housing community.
This week's ChangeMaker is Michelle Norris, the Executive Vice President of External Affairs and Strategic Partnerships at National Church Residences. Michelle has a long history working in the nonprofit management industry, and she's handled everything from affordable housing to real estate development to working with HUD. Michelle, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Katie.
You've been with National Church Residents for a couple of decades, and you've built a very impressive career. Before we get into National Church Residents itself, let's just talk about you. How did you get into affordable housing?
Well, it is kind of a weird story, but let's say some people say I stumbled upon National Church Residences. I feel like I was led to National Church Residences. It was 27 years ago when I first came to this organization, and I fell in love with our mission very, very early. It's been pretty much a love affair ever since then. I will tell you what struck me very early is when I first got here, we had two core values. Those were mission and professionalism, and they were on everybody's business cards. At the time, I came from the for-profit world and was coming into the nonprofit world. And my biggest worry was that I would be coming into an organization that really wanted to do good things, but that I would leave my professional career kind of wanting. That has not been true here. Because we are an organization that is really growth-oriented, we are both a truly mission-oriented organization, but we have so many opportunities for professional growth. That has served me well. I've had a variety of jobs in this organization. My first start was as director of finance, and then not long after that, we had a reorganization, and we had the opportunity to basically move our affordable housing leadership, and I took a job as CFO of our affordable housing. A couple years later, the COO of affordable housing became open, which was essentially head of property management. And I was there for about 5-6 years. We continued to grow, and I loved our growth side. And so our CEO gave me the opportunity to run our development team. So I ran our development when we were mostly a 202 shop, and then we're really moving into the tax credit program in an accelerated way. Over time, I picked up our public policy work and eventually ended up in our external affairs team, which is really fun because now I just get to tell all the great stuff we're doing.
So what would you say is the most driving motivator for you in this field?
The most driving motivator for me is the need is so great, and honestly, the people that gravitate towards this field are really great people. So I feel like what a great thing to be able to do is work with a ton of really good people, both in our organization and our colleagues, and be able to do it for a compelling need that this country desperately needs to be better at. To be very quite honest, we need to be better at it.
Well, it definitely sounds like you are a natural fit for both the mission of what you're doing and who you're doing it with and why. So you've got the three powerhouse questions there all lined up for you.
But thank you. It really has been quite a career. And honestly, prior to National Church Residences, I was a 5-year and done kind of girl. Every 5 years I'd move to a different organization. So when I came here and here I am turned around, it's 27 years later, it's a little startling. It's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. It has to have been a good place for me to stay that long.
So National Church Residences, it's the nation's largest nonprofit senior affordable housing organization. And you currently serve seniors in around, 25 states?
Yes, 25 states, about 20,000 residents across the organization.
You're the first person on our podcast where we have actually wanted to dive deep and highlight the unique distinctions of senior housing. And for many of us who are in housing, it's obvious why senior housing is needed. But in your words, explain why it's so important.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. And you're correct that senior housing is such an important need right now. I think people hear the statistics. In some ways, I think it's hard to get your head around it. You've probably heard the common phrase, 10,000 people a day are turning 65 every day for the next, however many years. But the reality is that means we're going to double the number of seniors to almost 90 million by 2050. So we are in this big upsurge of the number of us who will be becoming seniors. And more important for us is that we will be tripling the number of seniors over the age of 85, tripling the number of seniors over the age of 85. And so that's a significant group. And I think sometimes we forget that that's essentially saying we're going to have two generations of seniors. We'll have those turning 65 and those turning 85. And honestly, Katie, we have people, it's not unusual to have somebody over the age of 100 in our buildings anymore. Just the sheer volume of seniors that are turning of age, so to speak, and the fact that we're living longer does not necessarily mean that we're going to be living with enough income to meet, our living needs. And also, I don't care how good you take care of yourself, over time, your body doesn't do as well as it did when you were younger. I'm a runner, so I completely appreciate the difference between how my body runs today compared to how I ran 20 years ago. So it's this incredible growth of the senior population and the unique needs of those seniors that are driving us as an organization to be completely passionate about this space. It's been for 60 years what we do, and it feels somewhat like a higher calling that we have to just accelerate to try to help meet the needs this country has.
You mentioned the volume and the need distinction. And what's great about what you guys do is you really make an effort to do this holistic provision of housing by incorporating health, wellness, and safety in addition to housing. So tell us what you guys do for your residents in that health, wellness, safety continuum.
Oh, such a great question. So you're 100% right that the very first thing is if we provide affordable, safe housing that's designed for seniors, that is the first and most important cornerstone of what we do. I'm on the board of Corporation for Supportive Housing, which really focuses more on the homeless population. So I can very much appreciate that the value of simply providing that housing is so huge. But if that's our cornerstone and that's all we do, I feel like we would be doing a disservice to our seniors. So one of the things we do is we have a very large core of service coordinators. And those service coordinators are, I consider, the angels of what we do. Our seniors often need help with a lot of other things. They may need help with access to transportation. As you know, one of the things that's really hard as a senior is if you give up your car keys. It really isolates you. And so being able to have somebody who connects them to the transportation services that are in the community, health services that are in the community, often that will come to our community and provide services is really critical. And let me make sure people understand those who live in our buildings often have chronic conditions. As an example, about 1 out of every 3 people who live in our affordable housing are diabetic. 1 out of every 3. Well, we know that diabetes, uncontrolled, can have incredibly costly and impactful consequences. Our service coordinators connect our residents to things like diabetes programming, monitoring, blood checks, all that kind of stuff that are above and beyond just making sure they have safe and decent housing. And then we partner with healthcare providers. We would call them preferred providers. So not to be confused with what a service coordinator does, which is connect our residents to the services in the community. This is also trying to bring the healthcare, true clinical care into our communities to make it more accessible to our residents, making sure that they're having a podiatry exam or even a primary care visit. Those kind of things that are so critical to our residents as they age in place. So it is complicated and takes a tremendous amount of effort from our field team, but they really work in an amazing way, including our maintenance people. They are often the eyes and ears to find out when we have one of our residents starting to have aging problems, aging issues, such as if suddenly their apartment that they used to keep really clean isn't as clean. The maintenance person is one of the first people to provide that indication. And the first thing they do is go down to the service coordinator. So it's really an amazing system.
You mentioned the service coordinators that you have at your property, and it's a real unique inclusion and a real differentiator for you guys. Quidel, we do a lot of compliance and training in the multifamily program. And one question that we get a lot is about the 202 property service coordinators. And you just laid out everything, that really encompasses their daily routine. But I want you to just kind of give us another glimpse of how crucial you utilize these service coordinators at your properties for your residents. And, you talked about coordination of services, but I know it's so much more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so service coordinators, and you're right, I'm sure there's a lot of confusion if you've never worked with them. Matter of fact, new property managers to us, if they've come from a system that doesn't have service coordinators, this is a strange thing for them. It's like, wow, how do I use the service coordinator? And I was actually here when we had one service coordinator, and now we employ 400. So I've seen a tremendous growth in our service coordination program in the years I've been here. So I'll kind of give you some simple things that they do. It might help paint what their value is. So the first thing, as I mentioned earlier, is they help connect our residents often to some great educational programming to ensure that they have really good health education and allowing them to age in place with a better approach. Honestly, one of the things that they've done this year is provide a lot of emotional support to our residents. As you're probably aware, many of our residents may not have family members around. We're starting to see residents who are outliving their families. And so we call that the orphan elder problem. So often our service coordinators become the daughter for our residents, the eyes and ears, the daughter, the comforter. They also provide a very important value that I don't think people understand, and that's what I would call benefit connection. There are some really good programs to help people who are lower income. And as you know, Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps or SNAP, HEAP, which is for energy, there are things like that that are often not an easy thing to figure out how to use or how to get to. And so often our service coordinators will help our residents know that they qualify for programs in addition to what they're already getting by having a subsidy of their rent. Again, allowing their dollars, their precious dollars, to spread further. So that's a really important thing. We call it Benefit Connect. And then the last thing is healthcare navigation. We understand how complicated the healthcare system is. And as you can imagine, it can be really intimidating for somebody who is in their 70s or 80s. COVID completely made this a really big issue for us. As everybody pivoted towards telehealth, what in the world does a 85-year-old do when they need to get to their primary care physician and the primary care physician says, well, all you have to do is open your laptop and connect to the internet and Zoom me.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have given them 3 directions that they don't know anything about. They don't have a laptop, they don't have internet connection, and they sure don't know how to Zoom. And so our service coordinators during COVID, obviously before COVID and after COVID, are a key connection to health navigation.
National Church Residents, you guys are one of the organizations taking part in the CDC's pharmacy partnership for long-term care. And I think, you guys being aware of what your senior needs are, trying to move in this COVID space of enhancing and, maintaining health for your residents. But this particular initiative, I'm very impressed with what you guys are doing here. Tell us about this and how it's coming along.
Oh gosh, it was one of the things I'm most proud of. Matter of fact, this year, of all my years here, I would say that I'm probably more proud of our frontline workers than I've ever been. Maybe that's a bad thing to say because maybe it means I haven't been as proud as I should have. But our frontline workers, you've probably heard the expression of frontline heroes. We have thousands of them. I just have been overwhelmed by their ability to pivot, their ability to do things creatively. So on the vaccine program, it was truly a heroic effort between our team here in central office and our field team and our partners. If you're not familiar, there was a program called the Pharmacy Partnership Program that was stood up at the end of 2020. You had to sign up very early. In order to sign up, you had to go to the CDC's website, you had to enter your address, your building, all this data. So our corporate team did that on behalf of our sites. So that was step one, is to very quickly make sure that we got all of our sites entered into the CDC's queue, so to speak. Once we got in the queue, then we had to work and we had to pick that partner. So in our affordable housing, we picked as our partner CVS Health and Omnicare, which was our partnership program. We were able to work, our central office was able to schedule for every one of our buildings 3 clinics per building. So as you know, these are 2-step doses, right? So what we were able to do is people could participate in clinic 1 and 2 or in clinic 2 and 3. And so every one of our buildings was able to get these clinics. Once the clinics got set up, then the field team went into action, promoting it to our residents and our staff, setting up the community room, making sure the paperwork was ready. And then in the end, Katie, to your point, our results were that we had almost 1,000 clinics that we were able to do in the first 120 days of 2021. And that was in 325 of our communities in all 25 states where we have presence, allowing access to 22,000 residents in order to give them options for the vaccine. So it takes a village, but in this case, it's clearly an example of that. And I'm just really proud of our team for being able to put that together. It was crazy for a while, but we got through it and we accomplished something that is very unique. I would call it, if you don't mind me saying so, this is where we call place-based health assistance coming into housing. The healthcare system, when it comes into housing, affordable housing, is incredibly fragmented. And in this case, it was truly where we were able to kind of break down all those barriers of which Medicaid card you carry or which Medicare card you carry. It didn't matter. If you were a senior, you got access to that vaccine at the same time. And I hope that this becomes a model of how we can look at moving forward and providing better place-based strategies of bringing healthcare into senior affordable housing.
You guys have done a fantastic job, and that's one of the many reasons we have you on the ChangeMaker series here, because you guys launched with such an effective method, and for so many people in such a large space that you guys were serving. So I'm sure that your team, they were just all driven by the obvious need, but now that you're kind of, dare I say, one step past the crucial, implosion of what happened in this last year, you guys can really look back and applaud yourself and push that forward as a national best practice.
Well, thank you. We're really honored to have had that partnership. I think the thing I struggle with right now is I feel like I can't say thank you enough to our staff, because I think sometimes they don't realize how amazing the stuff they did in this period of time. That was one of many examples, but that one is one that is particularly of note. So,
okay, let's stop right here. But join me next time for more of my convo with Michelle Norris from National Church Residences.
Every dollar that they spend in their 60s and 70s for too much rent, it's less money than they will have of that small piggy bank to keep them aging in place into their 80s and 90s. And often that means spending more on your rent means they end up with these terribly uncomfortable decisions of expensive medications or healthy food. A horrible, horrible decision that we're asking our seniors to make.
Thanks for listening to Changemakers with Katie Gore. To find out more about Katie, go to quadel.com. That's QUADEL.com. This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio.